Hello everybody, thank you for having me here today. Apologies that I wasn't here this morning. I had quite a few meetings this morning and I'll be running out shortly after this, so apologies again for that. I'll probably be around for a little bit in the run up to lunch, obviously, free lunch. So if anyone wanted to quickly catch me before I head out the door, that's where you'll find me. So I'm billed as the role of electricity storage in a reformed electricity market in GB. I am mainly here to talk about the capacity market. Simon's already given you a little bit of an overview, certainly from his perspective, of how that looks, and I thought I'd take you through a little bit in more detail. That's mainly because that's what I cover, so it's what I know. I work in the capacity market in DEC, and also because at the moment it is sort of the forerunner for what is, we hope, the first of many tools for storage, to bring storage on in GB. We recognise it's probably not the entire story. It's not the only tool that we need, but it certainly should be of benefit to the market, I think. I think it's worth touching on, which is all I'm going to do, but it's worth touching on, there's other things going on in the electricity market. Obviously, outside sort of DEC's purview and things of the cash-out reform and the third package in Europe and increasing interconnection and so on, which are all going to have impacts on the electricity market going forward. So I don't want to imply the capacity market is the sole toy in the box here, but it's not what I'm going to cover on. So just quickly running through what EMR is, energy market reform, in DEC. It doesn't give much away in the title. So we're setting an overall policy direction that's being implemented through our delivery partners, National Grid and others. And it comprises mainly of two policies: contracts for difference, which you'll know about, incentivises low carbon generation, and the capacity market, which is open to all forms of capacity, except those holding things like CFDs and ROs, renewable heat incentives and so on, and is intended to bring on things like storage, thermal plant and DSR and so on. And this gives you a little bit of the administrative framework, so you know who to go and talk to, but we'll move on quickly from there. So the objectives of EMR. Says it all up there, really. Government's energy and climate change goals. So we've got the job of the department is to move to a low carbon energy future, protecting consumers and bills, and also keeping the lights on in the meantime, and doing this all in a sustainable way. I think there's some nice headline figures here. So we're looking at approximately 110 billion of capital investment in the decade 2020. It's like building 20 Olympic stadiums every year. It's a fair amount of investment, and I think it's worth pointing out here that we're the driver for the capacity market. We're losing approximately a fifth of generating plant by the end of the decade. This is due to tightening regulations, environmental regulations particularly, and just through to age of the plant, losing things off the system. So we've got quite a challenge ahead of us. But we think also challenge creates opportunity, and hopefully opportunity for people like yourselves. So let me take you quickly through the design of the capacity market. It's worth pointing out that we've just closed the consultation. Christmas Eve, 24th December, the consultation closed, and we're working through the responses at the moment and our responses to those, if you see what I mean. We'll be laying the regulations in the spring. They will be coming into force in August, and we hope then over the autumn to hold the first capacity market auction. Asterisk, this is all subject to state aid approval, of course, which we're working on at the moment. So the high-level design, we set an amount to auction, we publicise this, we hold pre-qualification, which allows anyone who's interested in turning up to the auction to come pre-qualify with us and prove their capacity. So this obviously includes thermal generation, but it also includes storage, includes DSR. We are hoping in time that it will include interconnectors. We're working on how that will look at the moment. That won't be in the first stage of the design because we've not come up with a sensible proposal yet, but we're working on that and we will do. After pre-qualification, we will hold an auction, at which it's, for those of you who get techie about auction design, it's a descending clock pay-as-clear auction, which basically means that everyone gets the price of the last bidder that is accepted and everyone else goes home empty-handed. After the auction, you'll be able to trade both physically and secondary trading on the financial markets to move your position around with this agreement that you've picked up in the auction. And then during the delivery year, you'll be expected to deliver, and as Simon touched on, we have a sort of metric there for proving that what we've bought in the auction is actually being delivered in the real world, and that's the delivery. And of course, everyone's favourite bit at the end, you get paid for it. This is paid for by suppliers, so this goes onto bills, something we're very aware of, the cost to consumers in this. And it's paid by suppliers according to their share of demand. So I won't go through each of these points in detail. I assume the slides are going to be made available, she says, looking for someone to nod. Maybe. If not, do get in touch and I'll forward them all to you. But there's a couple of places you'll find this information, including the consultation. So the first auction will be run in November 2014, for delivery in 1819. It is a one-year delivery, but it starts exactly from when the auction was in 4 years' time. So it runs from autumn through to the subsequent autumn. Ministers will set an enduring reliability standard, so this hopefully offsets cost versus our desire for reliability and is supposed to reflect the desire of the nation for how reliable they want the system to be. And the demand curve allows us to flex this up and down a little bit depending on the price that comes through. So year on year we can see the price and by slightly more or slightly less depending on where it comes in the system. National Grid will carry out the analysis to set the amount to auction, as they do at the moment for the security of supply analysis that they do that comes through Ofgem at the moment. That'll now come through National Grid straight to us, and ministers make those final decisions on the volume to procure. So who's eligible? We covered this a little bit. So new and existing generation, including CHP, demand response, including embedded generation, and electricity storage, including, again, as embedded. Ineligible, so capacity on low carbon support, CFDs, ROs and others of the like. People that are participating in the CCS commercialisation project, again not particularly important to storage people here. At the moment, interconnected non-GB capacity and interconnectors. And capacity below 2 megawatts, although you can aggregate up with other units to reach a minimum threshold of 2 megawatts. In a sense, that is an administrative limit placed so that we're not dealing with bids in the auction of a kilowatt here and 2 kilowatts there, and amounts that National Grid really wouldn't be able to keep track of. So pre-qualification is there to ensure that when you turn up at the auction, we're fairly sure that you are robust, you are not cardboard plant, and that you have some ability and desire to deliver what you're about to be given an agreement for. So I've gone through this pay as clear descending clock auction, Dutch tulip auction for those of you who would recognise it under that name. There's not a huge amount more to say here. We have a cap on the price, so you'll know going into the auction what the maximum cap is. At the moment, we are looking to set that at, basically we call it the cost of new entry, and as Simon will know who's been following this, we've had some interesting conversations about that. There's also intended to be longer contract lengths for refurbished plant. At the moment we're looking at 3 years, and longer again for new plant. And we're looking at the moment at about 10 years. Once again, that was subject to consultation, so watch this space. So therefore, storage coming in that's new to the market, that's new build, will be able to get agreements for up to 10 years, if they desire. Trading. I won't go through this in too much detail, although it will be interesting to storage. People who find it harder to, any of the types of resources that find it harder to just deliver at all times, such as things like nuclear, which is sort of baseload plant always running. They don't have a particular problem when there's a stress event as long as their plant is online, but storage might do, as might do other thermal plant that takes a long time to ramp, or DSR and so on. So there's some provisions in there for being able to trade in and out of your agreements. Okay, so penalties are applied in system stress events. Where demand is not met. This is preceded by capacity market warning, as Simon touched on. We're looking at 4 hours in advance. We will issue a warning to give people time to move themselves into position and be able to deliver. Stress events are not of any fixed duration. So although we give you 4 hours warning when they start, they can run until the stress event is deemed to be over. This is going to be a mechanistic process, so this is not going to be a case of National Grid deciding at 4 o'clock on a Friday they want to go home early and hitting the button so that all the generators turn up and they can just go home. There will be a mechanistic process which determines when a capacity market warning is issued and when it's actually occurring. I'm not going to go too much into the penalties at the moment. They're subject to consultation, and there's some interesting work going on within the department at the moment. So I won't go too much into the payment stuff. It's not too relevant to this group. But yes, it's worth pointing out the capacity market will be covered from licensed suppliers and over-delivery payments, which is times when you're delivering in excess of what you're required to during the stress event. You may be eligible for over-delivery payments, depending on where the policy settles for that, and those will come out of the penalty receipts. One further thing to add for those of you in the smaller end of the market, transitional arrangements and the capacity market. So I'm not going to go too much into detail, but we are holding 2 transitional arrangements auctions in 2015 and 2016 for delivery 1 year after, so 16, 17, 17, 18, she says quickly. With the intention of bringing on some of our more sort of nascent industries, so smaller storage, DSR, small embedded generation, the sort of people that traditionally to date have not played in the energy market, and may have, we're kind of building up the industry a little bit with the hope that we can increase the number of participants in the auction, increasing competition, and also build up some of these technologies that we have interest in seeing developing in the long term, like storage, like DSR, and so on, as viable and necessary alternatives to thermal plant. It's in many ways similar to the capacity market, as you can see. Most of the points are on the same. So it's an annual cycle. It's a T-1 demand curve, so the auction that would be held at T-1 in regular years. Pre-qualification, the auction format, all these things are similar. What's different is it's a softer requirement on providers. So there'll be a lower penalty regime, there'll be time-banded products, so this means you'll only have to deliver in certain hours of the day if you're called, and the penalties will be capped as well. Like I say, that's all dependent, a lot of that is dependent on where the eventual regime ends up. So like I say, after the consultation, a lot of this is moving around, so we'll see where that settles and then make our changes to the transitional arrangements. That's mostly all I wanted to say according to the slide. So I think, where does that leave us with storage? That's the capacity market and the transition arrangements in a nutshell. So I think our feeling in DEC is that the capacity market is a necessary tool for storage. It's useful. It's maybe necessary but not sufficient, and that more could be done to bring on storage. That's my personal feeling on it particularly, and we'll be partly here today to listen to what you have to say about that, myself and colleagues, obviously, since I can't hang around too long, but I'm interested in thoughts on that. We have now closed the consultation, as I say, so we'll be looking to issue our government response and our final proposals for this in the next few months. And we'll be going from there. But yes, interested to hear what people have to say today about the role of the capacity market and whether you think it would be a useful tool for storage or not, and what whether you think we've got the balance right. So the capacity market is intended to reward your capacity, obviously, can lose in the name, but we also want to make it possible to be remunerated for the other qualities that you have, such as we were talking about the interactions, the balancing services. So you'll be able to deliver capacity market and balancing services obligations together. You won't be penalised in one for delivering against the other at the same time or in tandem. And these are the kind of considerations that we're trying to make sure we get a balance of, so that people can be rewarded for all of the qualities they can bring to the energy market.
Thank you very much.